right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Today I'm super excited to be interviewing Michele Borba, who is a globally recognized author, psychologist, and speaker. Welcome today.
Oh, I'm so excited to be talking to you again. Thank you. It's always fun.
You are welcome. And you know, the reason I really wanted you to speak to this audience is because not only are you impacting families and educators here in the United States, but I've heard that the last few years you're really impacting people like globally. And so can you share with us a little bit about your work and how long you've been doing what you're doing and what really brought you to this point?
Oh, thank you in life. Well, it's been a long, slow trajectory, but it's always kids who have pushed me along. I started as a teacher. I was a special ed teacher for quite a while, and then I became an educational consultant. So I began to talk to teachers, almost 1 million, on 5 different continents all over the world, and parents as well. I just came back from Singapore, the Philippines. I'm on my way to Japan. Abu Dhabi was in October. It is resonating by leaps and bounds because empathy has no boundaries. It's not by culture. It's not by zip code. It's every single person I've talked to. Egypt and Cairo. The parents were just eating this up saying, there's something changing about our kids, but can you tell us what we can do? So it's all about empathy. It's about...
That's what I was going to ask you. Can you share? I was really stopped and moved by the research out of the University of Michigan that you shared in a talk that you given. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was actually a monumental moment in my own life and research when I saw this one statistic from University of Michigan. Now it's tracking 72 different studies and hundreds of different kids. So this isn't a one-time deal. This is 30 years of studying American teens. As they go into a university, they're given thousands of them from coast to coast, different genders, boy, girl, whatever, a little simple narcissism personality test. If you saw someone look distressed, how likely would you be to step in? Or if you saw someone who wasn't being treated justly, would you speak out for them? And what the researchers saw that was very concerning, about the year 2000, a nosedive began to happen, and it's now in free fall. The children's empathy began to fall about 40%, and it's continuing across the U.S., while at the same time, narcissism rates, I'm more special than you, went up about 58%, and it's continuing. That was primarily in the United States. Why am I going all over the world? Because now every country that's an advanced country that's technological based is seeing the same kinds of trends.
Awesome. I mean, not awesome, but I love that you brought this research out because now it shows parents and educators what is the importance of teaching empathy. So now we have this narcissism statistics that are saying our kids are way up here. They're all about themselves. They're taking those selfies nonstop. It's all about
Well, what we're finding is that there's a number of reasons why I'm so glad we're talking to educators and parents about what's causing this. First of all, you don't learn empathy facing a screen. That's looking down, not looking up, and face-to-face communication is the gateway. Learning emotional literacy. Oh, she looks sad, or daddy looks frustrated. We got to talk emotions far more to our kids. Middle school kids are more comfortable texting than talking. We also began to see that we're really trying to raise our kids to be a score as opposed to a human being. And all the emphasis has been going that way. What the research is coming out is very, very concerning. Mental health needs have never been so high with our American children. And we're also looking at a lonely score being extremely high. They're plugged in, but they're lonely because Sandbox has been removing from their lives, or they're so supervised even when they're playing that they don't know how to get along. Well, what we mean is that we're raising one child to be just one side of the report card. It's all about your score and your grade, when in reality, what we need to cultivate is their ability to be a good human being, the other side. It doesn't mean we're going to stop helping them be both, but we need to put in the whole child. And the best news is it can be cultivated. There's dozens of ways to do it. We can do it at home. We can do it at school. And what we would be doing is raising healthier, happier, more successful kids. It's all part of a book called Unselfie that took me 10 years to write. Let's get on board together. And that's what we're all here today to talk about.
Excellent. And I should tell everyone, I read Unselfie. I did a book study at my daughter's school on the book Unselfie. And the reason being, I want everyone to read the book. I want everyone to hear this because I truly believe that empathy is a large Band-Aid. It's going to help fix a lot of problems that we're seeing today. So let's kind of dig deep now. We talked about the issues. We talked about the research, the problems. Now let's share with parents and educators listening, what can they do for different age children to help teach empathy? So let's start with infants and toddlers, preschoolers, like those younger children. You talked about emotional literacy. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Well, yeah, but the gateway to emotional literacy is real simple. It means hold your baby, look at your baby, talk to your baby, put down the cell phone and the iPads. 1/3 of babies are now using iPads. For heaven's sakes, don't put good night mood on an app. Talk and let your voice be it, because that's the seeds of empathy. When your little one is 2, boy or girl, please start talking emotions. Oh, look, your face looks so happy. Look at daddy's face. How does daddy feel? When you're reading those wonderful books, when Sally gets mad, really, really mad, have them crawl up in your lap and point to the pictures and say, now make your face look like that. But one little big red flag, talk feelings far more to our sons. We're doing a far better job to our daughters at age 2 than we are to our sons. And it just keeps going. Point out, oh, look how sad your friend feels. What can you do to make your friend feel happy? What you're doing is intentionally starting to boost empathy. Your child is beginning to tune into others. And unselfie, a child who is really about being empathetic, is a kid who thinks we, not me. So that means a long stretching along the way, so you gradually begin to help your child think about others. Now that's for your little ones. When they get to be more cognitively aware, the greatest question you could ask is, how would you feel if that happened to you? What does your friend need to feel better? Remember, he can't feel that way unless he can identify emotions. So if you keep talking emotions and emotional literacy, it just keeps opening it up. By the time your children are tweens, please, it's no one step more. It's get your child involved with his friends, but how about doing service projects together? So you all go and maybe adopt the 95-year-old man next door. I say that because I just talked to a school, and that's what one mom did. She says their whole kids in the neighborhood has adopted this 95-year-old man. After reading Unselfie, she said, it's so amazing. He just sent me this voicemail of saying how much gratitude he has, and I keep reading it to my kids, and they're starting to get teary-eyed because they know they're making a difference. What are they doing? They're just going over and bringing some cookies, or just going over every once in a while going, how are you doing? Or can we rake your leaves for you? And what the kids are doing is starting to boost their empathy because they're knowing they're making a difference on this man's life.
So you just gave us 3 examples, and I need to say that out of those 3 examples, there's no cost. Like, it's not going to cost you money to strap your kid in the car and drive around and talk about, look at that woman crossing the street. She looks really happy. I wonder why. Like, that it does not cost you money except for gas, right? But it doesn't cost money to take care of neighbors, to rake leaves, to do surface projects. One of the research projects that I just recently read was the importance of doing service with your peers as the children get older. So I love that you connected that with our tweens and our teenagers.
Yeah. They pull away from us, and they should be. They're trying to be a grown-up. So they really want to be with their buddies. But I've seen some of the most innovative things that teachers and parents are doing is finding a support group. Okay, let's read Unselfie together, or let's look at our community and say, what are some projects that are real and meaningful to our kids, not to us, but to our kids, and let's involve them. Let's not just have my son do it or my daughter do it, or how about the neighbor kids next door? There's these wonderful service projects that are opening up, and as a result, it actually mobilizes empathy far more, but the most important thing is you start face-to-face. Every bit of research says it's not collecting 50,000 coins and sending to Biafra that's going to help a child who's shutting down in empathy. It's the moment where you look at a person's face and go, I'm making a difference. Every child that I interviewed when I was writing the book said, it was just that moment that said, my gosh, he's so happy. I made him feel better. I had to just keep doing it. And the other thing, it was finding the project that resonated with the child. For some kids, it was helping the younger kid learn soccer because he loved soccer himself, but maybe you can spread that to the little guy. You are a nature kid. Okay, let's plant that garden, but let's pick those vegetables and let's bring it down to some people who don't have nice, wonderful meals that you can eat. It's finding what resonates with your child and then going with it.
Fantastic, fantastic. And the last thing I really wanted to talk about, in a talk that I had sat and listened to you talked about altruism and the importance of raising children in a way that, can you speak more towards that, in a way that they are altruistic, so they are thinking about others?
Altruism is not a gene, it's something that is cultivated. That's the first thing. In fact, everything I'm talking about today, I love that you said doesn't cost a dime, but it is something our children are hardwired for. Here's what we need to know about empathy. What I looked at and knowing that, oh my gosh, it's starting to free fall, what are we going to do? The first thing, it's made up of habits. The first habit we already talked about was emotional literacy, but each habit is like it scaffolds, like a ladder onto the next one. Then we can help our children learn that they're a caring human being by praising them for being kind, not just for their grade. Third, let's talk about perspective taking. How would you feel if that happened to you? Fourth is, let's do moral imagination. So we read books that help our children journey into the world of somebody else. That's going to be moral imagination. Then let's help them regulate the stress so that they can feel for others and not just get in survival mode. That's huge. Our children are so anxious, but the more they can regulate their emotions, and we can teach that, the more it opens up. Then let's help them learn how to cooperate and collaborate with one another. What we're doing is slowly teaching each of the habits of empathy until we finally get to the final two that I think are critical. Critical number 8 is, habit 8 is courage. Stop bubble wrapping your child. Help them learn to speak out and speak out for what he says is just projects. You can do that at family meetings at home. You can do it class meetings in a classroom. Don't talk for your child, teaching the skills and the habits on how to be courageous until finally altruism sets in. And altruism is habit number 9, when a child wants to make the world a better place. Oh my gosh, how cool is that? It doesn't mean you're trying to help your child win a Nobel Prize, but it means that he has this positive outlook, that he sees the world as a good place. He sees other people as good people. You try to expose that to him, and every child that I know has that altruistic spirit. When I asked him, how'd you get that way? They all said, it was how I was raised. And I said, oh, please do. Well, how were you raised? My mom said it's important. My mom always was the model of kindness. My dad always says, hey, that was wrong. Now let's do it kind. What are we going to do as a family to make a difference? And it was simple little things along the way. And that's what we're looking for. As children who are leaders, who want to do something of make the world a better place. I don't think we've done such a good job. So let's leave it to our kids. Our children are the ones that are now going to inhabit this world. And they've kind of been given this world. What we want them to do is realize the world is good. So take it and figure out what you want to do to make the world better.
To leave an impact. And that's why we put this together, because we truly believe it's not just our children. Like, we have to be the models for our children. If we want to see brightness in their futures, and we want to see these leaders who are able to lead with kindness and love and joy, we really do have to model that in our homes and model that in our classrooms. As schools adopt this entire, policy that kind of counts, and it's what we need, and it's how we come into the classroom every day, and how we are in the classroom and in the family too. So I love that. That is my favorite. Thank you for sharing.
Oh, you're so welcome. There's so many simple ideas, but what I've discovered from parents who seem to be really on the track that's looking at the research and making it easy is they're intentional about it. And they find easy little rituals or routines to keep doing it over and over again. One of my friends has a 2 kind rule. Every day in this house, you say or do at least 2 kind things to somebody outside when you walk out. It could be hello, or it could be opening the door. But what happens by the time they're 2 till the time they're 13, mom keeps reinforcing it until it finally becomes embedded. And the child no longer needs coaxing or reminders. They've just really internalize that. And they're kind kids. Leave a box by your door. Every time the box is filled with gently used toys or books, we're going to, as a family, take the box to the fire department or a needy family, and then we're going to do it over and over again, and you become a charitable family. It becomes the wonderful things of what your kids remember above all else.
For
I
sure.
think the
For
key
sure.
that you mentioned is so simple, and that is take a moment and say, if my kids only saw my behavior to watch, what would they be catching today?
And if you feel that what we're saying, you're in your head, you're saying, this is really great, but I'm just too busy, I can't fit it in. If that's what you're thinking right now, listening to this, you have to really step back and say, what can you let go? Because this is what's important.
Yeah.
This is what is important.
Yeah. In the end, it's all about what we want as a good little human being. And we don't have any rewind button on parenting. We got to get this right the first time.
We don't, and your children are grown now. And I remember speaking to you about a year ago, I asked you, if you were raising your children today, obviously you would do the 8 steps to empathy, but what would be like your biggest advice to yourself? Like, I mean, today's different than it was 20 years ago when you were raising your children. So what would be like your biggest advice to yourself if you had to do it all over again today?
Just being present. The most fascinating thing that I've discovered, even when my children, I remember my little one, who's my middle kid, and I talked to him, but sometimes I guess I wasn't looking at him. And he used to remind me by just taking my chin and going like this, and I'm going, oh, he wants me to look at him. And I'm going, how precious is that? And I realized that's what it's all about. It's about face-to-face connection. When everything else is blocked, I'm not saying up for all day, but for that 30 seconds, for that 3 minutes, the best thing we can give our kids is that presence. But we're also modeling empathy. That's how it all starts, is through us to them. Always look at the color of the talker's eyes. You'll start looking up. You'll start noticing. And what we will be doing is, I think what's starting to really go dormant is just connection, human connection with one another. I see everybody looking down, not looking up. And that's the real danger. There goes humanity.
Human connection, and there's a really great quote that says our children won't remember what we taught them, they'll remember how we made them feel. And
Yes.
if we're present and we're engaged, they're going to remember that versus
Yes.
us saying, you need to do this, you need to do that. So
Yeah.
thank you,
Yeah.
Michele, Borba, for all of your wonderful expertise and for all that you're doing in the world. I honestly feel blessed to know you and to have met you and to have hugged you in person. So thank you.
That was my best moment of moments, finally meeting you. I love your books. I love what you're doing. And thank you.
Thank you. And I should tell everyone, so before we leave, we have 2 books to talk about. One, you are a contributor in my new children's book that will be coming out in April. So you wrote 10 tips on helping children with friendships in the back, which is phenomenal. It's a parent and educator guide. But you also have a book. Can you speak for just a moment, and then we'll wrap this up on your new book?
Oh, thank you for asking. Well, the book we've been talking about right now is called Unselfie: Why Empathetic Kids Succeed in Our All About Me World. And it's how to teach those 9 habits, simple ways based on the research. It's for parents and for educators. And there's a free web discussion guide and everything on my own website, which is michelleborba.com. But coming out, ta-da, February 12th, is a complete educator guide, and it's called End Peer Cruelty, Build Empathy. It's the 6 R's that we all can be doing in our classroom and school based on the best research and science that actually do prevent bullying. And how do we create that climate that's more caring, compassionate, so our children feel safe, feel cared about, and also are engaged in learners. And it's a real simple guide, but I think it's critical, and it's what science says will make a difference. It's not a program. It's a process. And I really, I'm adamant, if you implement those 6 R's, you will dramatically reduce aggressive behavior patterns, and you will boost kindness in a school site.
Fantastic. Is it wrong that my end of the year teacher gifts should be that book for my daughter's teachers and principals?
Sweet.
Spread the love, spread the love. Well, thank you, Dr. Borba. I really appreciate your time, and we will be talking soon.
Thank you so much.